Everyone laughed when Emma first spoke about her dreams. In a small town where big ambitions were treated like distant fairy tales, she dared to say she wanted more. More than the quiet life everyone else seemed so comfortable living. They shook their heads, whispered behind her back, and told her she was wasting her time. Some even smiled to her face, only to mock her the moment she turned away. To them, Emma's dreams were too wild, too impossible, too much for someone like her. But Emma wasn't built to fit into their boxes. While others spent their evenings repeating the same routines, Emma stayed up late, sketching out plans, teaching herself skills no one around her thought were necessary. Every door slammed in her face, every setback, every cruel word only fueled the fire inside her. She worked in silence, believing that one day she would show them that dreams weren't meant to be hidden away. They were meant to be lived. As the years passed, Emma faced more obstacles than she ever imagined. There were moments when giving up felt like the easier choice, moments when the loneliness almost swallowed her. Yet, something deep inside whispered to keep going. She didn't know it yet, but her journey was about to take a turn no one, not even Emma herself, could have predicted. Because when her breakthrough finally came, the same people who once laughed would find themselves standing in the crowd, clapping the loudest. The girl they once doubted would soon become the woman they admired. But what exactly did Emma do to turn her dreams into reality? And how did she rise above the voices that once tried to tear her down? Stay with me, because her story is just getting started. Emma wasn't born into a world of opportunity. Her family lived modestly, doing their best to get by, believing that hard work meant sticking to what was safe. Dreams, in their eyes, were a luxury, not something people like them could afford to chase. Emma grew up hearing phrases like "be realistic" and "don't aim too high" more times than she could count. Still, even as a little girl, something inside her refused to settle for an ordinary life. At school, Emma was the quiet one sitting in the back of the class, scribbling ideas into a worn-out notebook while others laughed about weekend plans. Teachers overlooked her. Classmates ignored her. Even some friends gently suggested she should think smaller to avoid disappointment. But Emma didn't want a small life. She dreamed of creating something bigger, something that would one day make a real difference. She just didn't know how yet. The real struggle began when she decided to take her first leap. She applied for internships, entered competitions, sent out letters asking for advice and guidance, only to be met with rejection after rejection. People told her she wasn't good enough, that she didn't have the right background, the right connections, or even the right look. Every no she received seemed to shout louder than the last, daring her to give up. But Emma clung to a belief that somehow, somewhere, a door would open. She studied in secret, worked late hours at jobs she didn't love, saved every spare dollar to invest in her dream. She told no one, knowing they would only try to talk her out of it. And as the world kept doubting her, Emma was quietly building something they couldn't see, something that, when revealed, would leave them speechless. Emma's biggest battle wasn't just against the people who doubted her, it was against the voice inside her own head. Some nights, when the world outside her window was dark and still, that voice would creep in, asking if maybe everyone else was right. Maybe she was chasing something she would never catch. Maybe she wasn't special after all. But every time doubt tried to take root, Emma would remember why she started. She wasn't doing this for fame or applause. She was doing it for the little girl who once believed anything was possible. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, another struggle was unfolding. Emma's family, though well-meaning, worried about her. They wanted her to find a stable job, settle down, and stop pouring her time and energy into what they saw as hopeless dreams. Her closest friend, Mia, who once encouraged her, began to pull away, choosing a safer, more traditional path. It hurt Emma more than she let on. She was losing the few people she trusted, and with every step forward, the gap between her and the world she knew grew wider. To make things worse, Emma wasn't the only one with ambitions. In the same town, a few familiar faces started chasing similar opportunities, but with more resources and louder support. They copied her ideas, took credit for trends she started, and moved ahead while she was still struggling to be seen. Emma watched from the sidelines, feeling invisible, fighting the bitterness rising inside her. Everywhere she turned, it seemed like the odds were stacked higher. Rejections, loneliness, betrayal. And yet, Emma kept moving forward, even when it felt like every step was through mud. What she didn't realize yet was that one moment, one decision, was about to change everything. But at what cost? The night everything changed started out like any other. Emma sat alone in her small, cluttered room, surrounded by scattered notes, half-finished projects, and the faint hum of her old laptop. She had been working on a plan for months, something bigger than anything she had tried before. It was her final shot, the one idea she had left, and deep down, she knew it had to work. If it didn't, she wasn't sure how much longer she could keep fighting. Outside, a storm was rolling in, the sky heavy with dark clouds. It felt fitting somehow, like even the world itself was holding its breath. Emma uploaded her work, a project she had poured her heart into, onto a platform where only a handful of people ever noticed her. She stared at the screen, her finger hovering over the submit button, heart pounding so loud it almost drowned out the sound of the rain tapping against her window. This wasn't just about chasing a dream anymore. It was about proving to herself that she was worthy of being seen. Across town, the same people who once laughed at her were gathering at a local event, celebrating their own small wins, sharing stories of how they always knew what success looked like. Emma wasn't invited, of course. She was still the girl no one thought would make it. But what none of them realized was that behind the scenes, something had already started to shift. Within hours of posting her project, something unexpected happened. A few likes turned into hundreds. A few shares turned into thousands. Messages flooded in, strangers, mentors, even brands, wanting to know who Emma was and how she had created something so powerful. But just as her world was starting to change, an even bigger challenge was waiting, one she never saw coming. At first, Emma couldn't believe what she was seeing. Her phone buzzed nonstop, the screen lighting up with notifications faster than she could open them. It was overwhelming but thrilling, like everything she had worked for was finally being recognized. She barely slept that night, heart racing with excitement and disbelief. For the first time, she wasn't invisible. She was someone people were talking about, someone people admired. It felt like the beginning of everything she had ever dreamed of. But just as quickly as the rise began, a shadow fell over it. Early the next morning, Emma woke up to a message from Mia, the friend who had slowly drifted away. Except it wasn't a message of congratulations. It was a warning. Someone had taken credit for Emma's project. A bigger, more well-known creator had seen her work online and claimed it as their own. They had the resources, the connections, and the following to spin the story before Emma could even react. Within hours, the narrative shifted. People believed the bigger name. Emma was once again pushed into the background, her voice drowned out by someone louder. The betrayal hit harder than any rejection she had faced before. She sat frozen, staring at her screen, feeling the weight of everything she had built start to slip through her fingers. It wasn't just about losing recognition. It was about losing the proof that her dreams had been real, that all the sacrifice had meant something. Every part of her wanted to give up, to walk away and forget she ever tried. But deep down, Emma knew this was the real test. This was the moment that would either break her or push her to fight harder than she ever had before, and the choice she would make next would change everything. Emma sat there for a long time, staring at the screen, feeling crushed under the weight of it all. It would have been easy to disappear, to let a louder voice win like so many times before. But something deep inside her, the same fire that kept her going through years of silence and rejection, refused to die out now. She knew she had the truth, and for once, she had the skills to tell her story her way. Instead of arguing or fighting online, Emma did something no one expected. She gathered every sketch, every draft, every time-stamped file she had ever made. She pieced together her journey, showing exactly how the project was built from scratch, long before it ever hit the public eye. Then, she created a simple but powerful video, telling her story not with anger, but with honesty. She didn't name names, didn't accuse anyone directly. She just laid it all out, proof and all, and let the world see the truth for themselves. The response was immediate. People respected the way Emma handled it. Bigger voices in the community came to her side, supporting her, amplifying her story. Brands who once ignored her reached out with real offers. Even the creator who had tried to steal her work was forced to step back, their reputation taking a major hit. Emma had finally won, not by playing their games, but by staying true to herself. And just when she thought the dust had settled, a message arrived that would change everything again. A major company, one Emma had admired for years, offered her a partnership deal that could launch her career beyond anything she had ever dreamed. The girl they once mocked hadn't just proved them wrong, she had become someone they could never forget. Emma stood outside the glass doors of the company she once dreamed of working with, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. It didn't feel real, and maybe in some ways, it never would. But as she walked through those doors, she wasn't the shy, uncertain girl from a small town anymore. She was a creator, a fighter, someone who had built something no one could ever take from her. The deal she signed wasn't just a business move. It was a symbol of every silent night spent working, every tear, every rejection that had tried to break her. Her family, once cautious and unsure, now looked at her with pride they couldn't hide. Even Mia, her old friend, reached out to reconnect, apologizing for ever doubting her. Emma forgave her. She understood now that fear makes people say things they don't always mean. The people who once laughed were silent now, some even cheering her on from the sidelines. And the ones who tried to take credit, they had faded into the background, reminders that shortcuts never lead to real success. Emma knew that dreams weren't just about talent or luck. They were about perseverance, about showing up when no one else believed, about choosing to stand when it would be easier to fall. She realized it was never about proving others wrong. It was always about proving herself right. As she took her first steps into a brand new future, Emma smiled, knowing her story was only beginning. Her journey had taught her the most important lesson of all. When you fight for your dreams with everything you have, you don't just change your life, you inspire others to believe in their own. And that, in the end, was the greatest victory she could ever have.